we don't live in a perfect world. So why would we expect to have perfection in our lives? Why do we always anticipate that there's not going to be any accidents or tragedies or losses? There's going to be that in our lives. So we have to figure out how we're going to deal with tragedy and loss and disappointment.
Hi, I'm Kristen Brunius, and this is the Overcomers Podcast. I am so excited for you to hear the stories of incredible people overcoming trials and turning them into triumphs. From everyday moms and dads to entrepreneurs to community leaders and beyond, you'll see how everyone has a story of overcoming, and those stories are what connect us all. Let's hop right in. Hey everybody, welcome to the Overcomers Podcast. If we haven't met before, I'm Kristen Brunius. I get to be the host of this podcast, and I get to hang out with all these amazing people and have the privilege of interviewing them and helping you to get to know their stories and how they have taken trials and turned it into triumphs. Do me a favor, if you haven't clicked the follow button and the alarm bell to be notified when new episodes come out, please do that. We release episodes, God willing, every Wednesday. And also, as you're listening today, if there's someone that pops in your mind that you think might benefit from this, I like to call that a God wink. Don't ignore it. Send it to that person. And today's episode is going to be kind of a unique one. It's more of a tangible, tool-based episode. We had Shelley come on, and Shelley talked about how a lawnmower accident with her son led to what she calls the pivot principle. And now she's a keynote speaker. She has a book coming out this in fall of 2025. And she just talks about how that accident became a pivot point. And it was a time of growth and struggle, as so many of the stories are on this podcast, and how she's using that to inspire others to make change in their life, to not only get closer to Christ, but also to achieve their goals. And so this is a shorter episode, and I think it's one that you'll walk away with some tools in your toolbox that you can use for your personal growth. Speaking of tools in your toolbox, as I'm drinking my protein shake right now, these Soul Naturals products, which is our sponsor for this podcast, are some of my favorite tools in my toolbox. Of course, I do all the other things like, focus on my spiritual life, my emotional life, exercise, movement, sleep, and things like that. But supplements are a super important part of my toolbox, as well, as I have dealt with mental health, anxiety, energy issues. And now as I'm going into the wonderful world of perimenopause, as so many women who listen to this podcast are going through. And if you're a man, you also go through hormonal changes too. So don't ignore it. But anyway, it is self-sponsored by my business with Soul Naturals. And as always, I want to introduce you guys to the sampler pack. It comes in this package right here, and it comes with 7 drinks. And so we have everything from a green drink to Cinnamate. The hormone drink is Soul Excel, 2 different kinds of protein, a collagen, all kinds of goodness. It is $14.95 on my website, which is soulnaturals.com/Kristen. It's soul as in SOLLE. Inside your package, you will get a $15 off code, which is awesome, because the packet itself is $14.95. You get $15 in credit, which makes all 7 of the samples free. So you get to try them all, decide which of the 7 are best for you, or all 7, because personally I like all 7, and go on from there and just really see how that can make an impact on your life and how they can be tools to help balance your hormones or blood sugar or energy or better sleep or better digestion, or balance your hormones, or whatever that looks like for you. So go to soulnaturals.com/Kristen. Check it out. I appreciate the support so much. It's what keeps this podcast going. And just glad you're here. Let's hop into the episode. All right. Well, we have Dr. Shelley Kemp with us today. Shelley, so glad that you're here.
Good morning.
Good
Thank you for
morning.
having me.
Or whatever time it is that you guys are listening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hopefully it's not the middle of the night. That would not be fun. Although if we're accompanying you on a night shift, super awesome. But
Yeah,
I mean,
our voices might be, so melodic they put them to sleep. Put people to sleep. Who knows?
who knows? Who knows? It's funny actually that came up because I don't typically have trouble sleeping, but I woke up at like 2 a.m. this morning and I was like, is it time to start my day? And it took me a little while to calm back down. And I don't know if I was just like super excited about today or what, or maybe I was just hot because it's June and it's hot. Probably by the time this episode comes out, it'll be July and it'll be even hotter. So, which speaking of, you're in Tennessee.
I am.
Remind me, you're in.
I'm in Memphis, so I'm on the West Tennessee border.
Okay. We talked about this. I've never been to Memphis. I've been all over Tennessee, but I have not been to Memphis. So I'm going to have to add that to my list. And you and I connected actually on Facebook in a Christian podcasters group, which has become a wonderful resource for me. I've just been kind of charting this territory for 2 years kind of blindly. And I don't know why all of a sudden one day I was like, I wonder if there's a Facebook group. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, and I'm just meeting some wonderful, supportive, amazing people like you. So super glad that we connected and we Zoomed together and we just hit it off. And so welcome, Shelley. Glad to have you here. So where do you want to start?
Gosh, I guess I'll just introduce myself.
Awesome.
So my name is Dr. Shelley Kemp. I like to put the doctor in there just because I work so hard to get it. But I really am just Shelley. I'm just Shelley.
What did you get your doctorate in?
My doctorate is in education. It's curriculum and instructional design. I'm a business major. I'm a business person, and I wanted to do something challenging. I thought a business PhD would be too easy.
Really?
I'm sure it wouldn't. I'm sure it would not have been easy, but so I thought I'd do something a little bit different and got it in instructional and curriculum design. I like to put programs together.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Awesome.
It was a great experience. It's a great experience. I went to Liberty University and
I
they
love
have
Liberty University.
Yes, they have such great programs. They really bring a kingdom perspective into every single course that they offer. The professors, they pray for you. They actually talk about, how your education is going to expand the kingdom, and they really have a heart for God and for Jesus. And I really appreciated the experience that I got with them.
Awesome. Did you do it online or in person? I can't remember where Liberty is.
I did. They are in Virginia, and I did it online. So basically, I taught myself. Don't tell them that.
No. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Shelley, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah. My vocation, I'm a career HR person. So I've been in human resources for the last 25, 30 years. I've worked in different industries, higher education. I've worked in transportation, banking and finance, and then most recently, professional sports. I spent nearly 8 years with a national basketball team and loved every minute of it. But God has a way of moving us where we need to be. And so for the last 6 or 7 years, I've really been getting this nudge to possibly come out of corporate America and really start affecting the lives of women, early and mid-career professionals, helping them grow in their roles. And I've written a book. I've done speaking engagements. So I'm having a lot of fun. Times are uncertain, but who knows where God will lead me in all of this magical journey that I'm on. So right now I am basically finishing my book, getting ready to launch. I signed with a publisher back in January. And so he's been great at getting me ready for the book launch and for a book tour. So that's been really fun. I'm writing more, and I'm opening myself up to some personal training and coaching and consulting in HR industries. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So where did this all start? What motivated the books and the speaking and the writing and the everything? Tell us the story behind that.
Well, one quick story from my childhood. I was in 12th grade, and you know how they always, your teachers are always asking you, what do you want to do once you grow up? You go to college and then get a degree or get a job. What do you want to do? And I told Mrs. Doolittle, I want to be a writer. And Mrs. Doolittle said, no, Shelley, you cannot be a writer. You are too verbose. You use too many words. And she was right. I do. I like all the words. But now I'm a writer, so the joke's on her. The joke's on her. But in 2018, that's actually when I got my dream job with the MBA. And in 2018, just 3 weeks after I started with the Memphis Grizzlies, my son had an accident, and he was at home doing his chores. He was 15, and he was mowing the grass. The grass it had rained a few days prior, and so it was still a little damp. And we have a hill in our backyard that goes down. And so he was trying to get, down the hill and then pull the machine up and then push it down and then pull it up again. He pulled the lawnmower up, and when he did that, his foot slipped and went underneath the lawnmower. Being a basketball player himself, that pretty much ended his high school career, his college career in basketball. And we went through this multiple month journey of getting him healed, both physically as well as mentally and emotionally. Because as you can imagine, a 15-year-old that amputates part of their foot, it's challenging. I didn't want him to be mad at his parents for making him do his chores. And I didn't want him to be mad at God, mad at the world, that this had happened to him. I really wanted him to continue to be the positive little boy, young man that he was. And so 2018 was a big turning point for us as a family. And in the healing that happened those weeks and months after the accident, I fell into a routine every morning before I would go to work. If you remember, I didn't have any time off. I didn't have any vacation. I didn't have any sick time. I had just started with the Grizzlies, and I was expected to be at work every day, 8:30 to 5:30 plus games. And so it was very difficult to show up for my son because he had therapy. He had to be at the doctor
How
3
long was he in the
times.
hospital after the accident?
Only 5 days.
Okay, not
It
too
is,
bad.
yeah, it's amazing how resilient, young people are, kids are. So 5 days. And then he was homebound for about 6 to 8 weeks before he could go back to school. And
Whoa.
yeah, before he could go back to school. So he did some of his schoolwork at home, and that was fun. That was fun. That was fun. Homeschooling for 6 to 8 weeks.
That was like a
And not
preview of what happened during COVID, huh?
absolutely, absolutely. And through his healing, we fell into this morning routine where I opened up my morning with prayer. I was looking up things online just to see, okay, how can I contribute to the healing of someone who's chopped off their foot? Not to be so bold and brash, but that's what happened. And so I was getting all of these recipes of how to make smoothies and how to, get protein into his body without just making him eat, every hour on the hour, because he was losing a lot of muscle mass from not moving. And we did some visualization. I kept telling him, God has a plan for you. This is not going to stop you from doing everything that you wanted to do. You can still go to college. You could still drive a car. You're still going to be able to walk and play basketball. And so I was really just trying to breathe life into him those weeks and months after the accident. And then, I came to a point where I had to figure out, okay, I'm going to have to give up something if I'm really wanting to help Anthony heal, because I had a lot of irons in the fire, as you will. I had my career, I had great friendships, I had a ministry of my own where I did Bible studies on the weekends, and it was a lot. And so I found myself needing to move into a different season where I needed to give some things up in order to pay attention to Anthony and what he needed. And so I went into a season of fasting, and I started training myself, because if he's going to need to be strong and he's going to need to get back into the gym somehow, then I want to be with him. I want to be doing the journey with him. So for the next 4 or 5 months, we just fell into this pattern every day. And then one day, the Holy Spirit just kind of whispered to me and said, write everything down. And I'm like, write everything down. I journal. I do make a lot of to-do lists. What else do you want me to write? And I kept seeing a Bible verse actually pop up in just strange places. For instance, one Saturday I went antiquing, and there was this little sign, and it was Habakkuk, I think it was 2:2, where it says, write it down so that the runner can take it to the masses. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting Bible verse. And I went home that day, the same day, saw a commercial on TV, and sure enough, it was Habakkuk 2, it was 2:2. Then the Lord replied, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so the herald may run with it. That's what it said. And it was funny. It was on HGTV. It was one of those little signs that someone has in their homes in the background. And it was that same Bible verse. And then I opened up my Bible app the next day. It was the same Bible verse. So I kept getting these signs that I needed to write down something. So I just spent some time with God and spent some time in prayer. And slowly but surely, He had me write down those daily habits that I had. And a pattern emerged. And the pattern was prayer, learning something every day, visualizing a new future, offering up something, and then training your body. And I wrote that down, and I thought about Anthony's accident. I thought about which foot he hurt, and it was his pivot foot.
Hmm.
And
Well,
in
as a
basketball,
basketball player, right?
yes, he was a basketball player. And, when a basketball player changes directions, they form a foundation. They place their feet on the court for foundation to move in different directions. And it was his pivot foot that he hurt. So I thought there's got to be something to the word pivot. And so I just put together PIVOT, prayer, investigation, visualization, offering, and then training. And then voila, I have a 5-step daily habit of something that really helped us walk through all the chaos and the confusion and the uncertainty of being hurt and having to face a new reality. And so the pivot principle was born out of that accident.
Isn't it
And
awesome how God can take the lowest of our moments, the times when we question things. And I think it's even harder when it happens to one of your kids than it is when it happens to yourself, because you just want to take it away from them, and you want to help them, and you want it to make it go away because that's like the mother's instinct. And I just love how he does that time and time and time again. I mean, you're probably episode 62, 63, and I could tell you 62 stories of God using horrendous things
yes,
for His glory. And And I think it's cool how now you're giving this to other people as well.
Well, we don't live in a perfect world. So why would we expect to have perfection in our lives? Why do we always anticipate that there's not going to be any accidents or tragedies or losses? There's going to be that in our lives. So we have to figure out how we're going to deal with tragedy and loss and disappointment. Who among us has not lost a job? Who among us has not been disappointed when a relationship didn't work out? Who among us, had a dream that did not work out? We have to figure these things out. And the pivot principle just gave me 5 things that I could rely on and do every single day to not only bring clarity to my day, like what do I need to focus on today, but also it connected me with God first every morning through prayer. And sometimes it would only take 5 minutes because that's all I had time for, or that's all I had the emotional wherewithal for. And then sometimes I would be in that space with God for 2 hours. And it was an amazing time of growth for me, an amazing time to watch God work in Anthony's life. I mean, I didn't even tell you the great part. The great part was this happened in September. By November, the doctors said that he would limp. He would never run again. He just would not have a straight gait anymore. And by November, he was wearing his shoe again and he was walking. He was still a little fearful of putting his full weight on his foot because he didn't have his toe box like you and I do. And by December, he looked at me and said, "Mom, I want to play basketball again." And I'm like, how in the world are you going to play basketball? You can't play basketball. You don't have a big toe, for balance. What's going on? And he says, "I think I can do it." And I'll never forget. He signed up for a community league and he ran faster than he had ever run before. And it was a miracle I was witnessing on that basketball court of him running back and forth, jumping, hooping, playing his game and having such a wonderful time. And my screensaver, I'm looking at it right now and it's him. His arms are out and he's like, "What? I did this." And God is so good. God got him back on the basketball court. Did it change his life forever? Absolutely. He's not going to be a basketball player like he wanted to be, but he's doing what he loves. And now it's 8 years later and he's a great young man who has a wonderful future ahead of him. He's loving what he's doing. And I could not be more proud of how he handled that valley in his life.
Love that. Love that. And he's going to be able to use his story, to bless kids his age. Well, he's not a kid anymore because he's in his 20s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, he'll be able to share his story in his own way to impact others about going through a super tough time at 15. Like we were talking earlier, I have a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old as well.
Yes.
And those are some really tough times. And when you're in it, you don't really realize it until you can look back and be like, man, 15 is hard. So
It is.
to go through this as a 15-year-old, that's a lot. That's a real lot.
I'm just so thankful that we got through it. I mean, yes, we have a story. We never thought that would be our story, but it is. And I think it's going to help a lot of people, in the future figure out how to overcome uncertainty and to draw nearer to what's important to them, whether it's God or whether it's a particular purpose. There's something that everybody can take from the pivot principle.
Right. So let's go into the pivot principle.
Okay.
Start to expand that a little bit for us and for the listeners who they're just looking for something because like what you said, I like that you said this is something you can do with in 5 minutes, or this is
Yes.
something that you can expand and you can spend multiple hours on. And I also feel like this could apply to, personal development. It could apply to a team, a
Yes.
business, a church, administration, a group of teachers. So anyway, I'll stop talking and you tell us all about the pivot principle.
Yeah. So the pivot principle is made up of 5 daily habits. And what I coach clients to do is to start out, commit to 5 minutes in each of these 5 areas every day. So it's a 25-minute routine. And over time, you'll find yourself in one of those 5 habits a little bit longer than 5 minutes. It just depends on what you need for that day. So as I do my own pivot routine in the morning, 5 minutes of prayer, I will either journal my prayer or I'll talk to God, but I want to make sure that I connect with him first in the morning so that he can order my steps. And once I feel like I've, spent enough time with him, then I'll move on to investigation. So investigation is really just a fancy word for learn something new every day. The Bible talks about renewing your mind, and that is a playbook. The Bible is a playbook for us learning something every single day. Athletes have to learn new plays. They have to learn new coaching styles when they get a new coach. They have to learn something every single day in order to be great athletes. And so I want people to know that it's important to never stop learning. And it could be anything. You could listen to a podcast. Check, you did it. You could read a book. Check, you did it. You can watch the news. Check, you did it. But don't disconnect. Don't, pull away from gaining new knowledge every single day and be very intentional. I'm such a learner. And so I want everybody to get on the learner train with me. And so I put that in there.
Some of my favorite people that I can think of, they're 60, 65, 70 years old, and they're still taking courses. They're
Yeah.
still like, getting a certification in something just for fun, or they're learning about fasting, or they're
Yes.
in some sort of Bible study or whatever. And I totally agree with you that God created us with these beautiful minds that just constantly need to be fed and to change and to be challenged and all those things. And so, of course, prayer is important, but I particularly like the I part.
Yes. V is visualization. So there's a saying that if you can see it, then you can do it. And one of the things that I learned from being around athletes is visualization is very important to the success of a professional athlete. If you remember Michael Phelps, the swimmer, right? Michael Phelps, you may not know this, but he was actually afraid of water when he was a young boy. And in order to overcome that, he got in the water. And his coach taught him to stay in the water and to think about all the things that could happen while he's in the pool. Think of all the great things that could happen if he's in a race, and think about all the terrible things that could happen. And it was funny. He did an interview one time and he said, the worst thing that can happen, one of the worst things that could happen if I'm in a pool is I'll swim and my trunks come off. And so I visualize that and then I train to make sure that my trunks don't come off. And so he's preparing himself by visualizing different scenarios that could happen to him while he's in the pool. And that helps him train in a way to overcome if that ever happened to him. And, now he's, a great champion, of all swimmers of all times. Kobe Bryant was a great visualizer. Michael Jordan used visualization. They both used meditation before They had a game. In fact, their trainer brought in a meditation coach for them, and they would spend 2 hours a day, every day during training season, just in visualization techniques. And so they meditated on all the things that could happen, at a game. And so their brain was preparing for the game. And that's how important visualization is. So we started doing that in our routine. The offering. This is something that my clients, they kind of get caught up in because it's difficult for them to imagine the O. The O is offering. What can you offer today to give up today for something greater tomorrow? And I'll simplify that. If I wanted to lose 10 pounds, and I do, if I wanted to lose 10 pounds, what could I give up today in order to get me closer to losing 10 pounds? Well, I could give up an hour of my time of Netflix, and I could hop on my Peloton and give that hour to Peloton. That's my offering for today. Again, it's just intentionality with your time every single day. So that's the offering part.
I was going to say, give me another example, because
Well,
I'm very interested in this part.
I know this is a part that I really had to come to terms to. What is the O in pivot? At 55, I still suffer from vanity. I'm not a Barbie or anything, but I suffer from vanity. I just want to look perfect. I want to be perfect. And so one of the things that gets in my way whenever I'm going on a podcast or whenever I'm being interviewed or whenever I'm doing a keynote is the way I look and the hair, the makeup. What am I going to wear? All of this consumes me. And when it consumes me, it takes away from what I'm talking about. And I don't want to be on stage, or I don't want to be in front of a camera worried about my hair or my makeup or if my pants are too tight or too loose. Because if I'm worrying about that stuff, that means I'm not able to communicate with the people in a way that relays what God wants me to say. Because I'm worrying about the wrong thing. And so I remember in 2019, for the month of January, I offered up all heat products for my hair. I know that's silly.
And you live in Tennessee.
And I live in Tennessee. Yeah. So there was no blow dryer, there was no curling iron, no flat iron, just wash it, brush it, and go. And that's what I did for the full month. And I'll remember on January 30th, January has 31 days. On January 30th, I had a headshot taken of me. And it was a little rough. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's still a little rough. It's not, perfect hair, but I'm okay with that. And I've grown from that. So now I don't focus so much on how I look. I focus more on what I'm saying and how I'm interacting with people. And that's really what matters.
Yeah.
That's really what matters.
Yeah.
And then the T in pivot is training your body and training your mind for at least 5 minutes every single day. I can do 5 minutes on the Peloton when I don't feel like working out. I can do 5 minutes. I can do 5 minutes of reading, training my mind when I don't feel like reading. I just set my timer, I read through it, I get to the bell, and I'm done. And so I train people, I teach people just to spend at least 5 minutes in each of those areas. 5 minutes of prayer, 5 minutes of learning, 5 minutes of visualization, 5 minutes of offering up something for something greater, and then 5 minutes for training. And that's the pivot principle.
Love it. Love it. It's so simple and it's so impactful. So what if people notice when they have started to impact this or to implement this? Do they stick to 5 minutes, or do they find themselves, going longer, or is it kind of like 5 minutes in a certain area? What does that look like?
Yeah. Some people, I work with busy professionals, And so some of them say, Shelley, I just can't give you 30 minutes in the morning. So I'll tell them, okay, break it up during the day. Give me 10 minutes in the morning and then give me 10 minutes at lunch and then give me, 5 minutes at the end of the day or you know, after you've come home from work. And that seems to fit better for busy professionals if they can break up the routine throughout the day. But the people who have the most impact are the ones who devote 30 minutes at one time, just because it's a lot more intentional. You can't forget what comes after P in the word pivot. And so you do it almost, in consecutive order. So some people have found that they spend more time in prayer and then just 5 minutes of learning or just 5 minutes of visualization. Some people say, oh, I've been working out. I tried 5 minutes and then I went 10 minutes and now I'm doing 15 minutes of working out every day and I feel great. And that's great for them. That's good. So whatever they need, they can expand. And for me, especially whenever Anthony was coming back, from the accident, my 5 minutes of prayer would just blow up to 45 minutes, an hour and a half. And I journaled a lot of that. So much of what I journaled is in the back of the book as a reference for how the pivot principle works.
Yeah. What did
And
those journal entries look like? And how was it to look back at that?
it's amazing to look back and to see that God was really working in our lives, and humbling that he could use somebody like me for such an important message. He could have given anybody the pivot principle, but he gave it to me. He gave it to Anthony. And so I'm really honored that he and I spent so much time with each other in 2018 and 2019, and that we continue to do the pivot work as we kind of craft our own future. I'm excited about the future too.
That's awesome. Is there anything else that you want people to know about the pivot principle in particular?
Yeah, I think, you brought this up a few minutes ago. The pivot principle can apply to anything. For us, it was a way for us to get Anthony back to a sense of normal and to help him find some peace with his new body, his new, not limitations, but his new abilities and skills. And when you think about it, the pivot principle can be applied to work. Work can get so crazy, so busy, so chaotic sometimes and stressful. And adults need a way to deal with stress. And some adults don't want to do yoga. They don't want to, go to the park on the weekends and find nature. They need something at home. They need something that can provide a foundation for them and allow them to have some stability as they work through the stress and the chaos that they find sometimes at work or in the community. And so the pivot principle can be applied just everywhere and anywhere.
I love that. I love that. What does the future look like? So your book is releasing in November?
Yeah.
November.
It's
Awesome.
a soft November. It's a soft November, yes. Book is releasing then. I have already started reaching out to people and asking people if they want to be on the book launch. So that's exciting. The book will launch in October for pre-sales. That's our game plan. And so I'll have a book launch of about 100 or so people, and we'll create a Facebook community. We'll do live Bible studies every week. There'll be prizes. There'll be games. I actually do all of the graphics, all of the social media scripts for my book launch people. All they have to do is post it on their social media. And so it's just a way for us to infiltrate all parts of the globe with the pivot principle and get some hype around the launch of the book so that when it does finally launch, we can launch with some great success and excitement that first week.
Love that. Love that. Well, we'll be looking forward to it. I definitely will link your Instagram account and your Facebook below, and we'll have you come back on after the book launches. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
One of the things that I've been doing since I left the MBA is I have been contemplating where God wants me next. And I think everybody needs a job. They need something to do. I certainly need the money that goes with the job. But until God puts me someplace, I've created a new business, and it's called PivotWell. And basically it is everything at the intersection of a kingdom focus, human resources consulting, mindfulness. I'm a certified mindfulness coach, and then building great habits. And so when you put those four things together, you have the business Pivot Well. And so I do keynotes, I do training for large groups, small groups, mid-sized groups, whether it's in churches or organizations. I do a lot of nonprofit. And so that's really what I'm focused on right now, is taking PivotWell out into the marketplace and finding ways that I can share the pivot principle, that I could share mindfulness principles with people so that I can create clarity within their own lives. They can become more productive. They can create roadmaps to their own successes. And so that's what I've been focusing on for the last 6 to 8 weeks is PivotWell. And I'm really, really excited about how that integrates with the pivot principle and the book launch. So
Love that.
yeah,
Love that. Awesome.
all these things work together.
They sure do. They sure do. Well, Dr. Shelley Kemp, thanks for coming. Thanks for being on. We're excited for where the Lord's going to take the pivot principle. We are so happy for the way things turned out for your son. And I have no doubt we're going to be seeing a podcast or some keynote speeches or whatever from you soon. And I know that you will be a blessing to many. So till next week, thanks, guys. See you then.
Bye. Thanks, Kristen.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to the Overcomers podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Shelley. She did such a great job of showing us that it's pretty easy to do things that we know we should be doing, and maybe we're already doing some of them, but she packaged it in such a way that it's simple, easy to remember, and I'm excited to hear from you guys how you're able to apply it. And real quick before we go, wanted to remind you to go to soulnaturals.com/Kristen and check out that sampler pack. 7 drinks, $14.95. It comes with a $15 coupon, so it's no cost to you to try them all. You have no idea which ones might make an impact, or 2 or 3. So check it out. Message me if you have any questions, and have a great week. Bye.